gonna do this one. And then I'm almost to the game.
Alright guys, we'll get this going in just a minute here. We're continuing what we did yesterday, so hopefully this is pretty easy. Looks like some of you guys have actually taken this quiz already and got 100% on it, so that's a good sign. Today we're going to look at two different parts here. First part we're going to look at is what do we do when we have integrals of two functions that go through the same interval, and what we can do with those answers here. So if we have two different functions, as long as they go through the same interval, so this one goes from 2 to 6, this one also goes from 2 to 6, we can find some answers that are specific in that 2 to 6 interval. So the first problem here is okay, what would be the integral from 2 to 6, so specifically looking at that, of f of x plus g of x? Well, that one's pretty simple here. If we know f of x is 10 and g of x is negative 2, we just add 10 plus negative 2. And so that would be 8. So that property works with addition. It also works with subtraction. Subtraction, we just have to be a little bit more careful with the order. So if we got the same interval from 2 to 6 of g of x minus f of x, we have to go from the interval, well, let's see, g of x goes first, so that'd be negative 2 minus f of x, 10. Negative 2 minus 10, negative 12. So using the same properties that we had yesterday, it also works with multiplying by constants. So if I have the integral from 2 to 6 of 2g of x, all we're looking at is 2 times, well, whatever g of x is. G of x is negative 2. And so that would be negative 4. And then lastly, maybe I'll squeeze it in here. I'll try. If we got the integral from 2 to 6 of 3 f of x, it's going to be 3 times, well, we just look at only f of x, 10. 3 times 10 is 30. So a little out of order there, but okay. So you can see it works, these integrals, as long as it's within the same range, we can do it. If it's not, we probably can't do it unless we know some more information. And that's something we won't see. All right, the next one is good. There's going to be a homework quiz problem like this. So we got the integral from negative 1 to 1. Maybe I'll write it up here. The integral from negative 1 to 1 of f of x, dx, I guess I should write that, is 0. And then the integral from 0 to 1 of f of x dx is 5. Okay. So notice both of these are f of x. They're not f of x and g of x. They are the same function. And since they are the same function, we can treat this like a number line. So if we got the first part from negative 1 to 1 has a total integral or total area of 0. And then the second part of this is, well, from 0 to 1, so I can make a note here, from 0 to 1, this has a total area or total integral of 5. So we have to use a little bit of logic here and think, okay, if the area or the total displacement, whatever we want to use, and we'll use a lot of different words here, from negative 1 to 1 is 0, but from 0 to 1 was 5, that means from negative 1 to 0, this would have to have an area of negative 5. All right, so we'll use that to help us find some answers here that move along, and I think the very first problem answers that. So, okay, part A here is, okay, what's the integral from negative 1 to 0 of f of x? Well, we just did that logic to figure out from negative 1 to 0, that was a negative 5 integral. All right, part B says, okay, what is the integral from 0 to 1 of f of x minus the integral from negative 1 to 0 of f of x. Okay, so from 0 to 1 is 5, minus from negative 1 to 0 is negative 5. So that would be a positive 10. Okay. Got 2 more problems. I'm going to leave this up for a second and erase. I don't like that, guys. Yeah. I'm glad it's on a video here. My son is playing a Lego game. That's what he's doing.
Mom.
All right, next problem. If we got the integral from negative 1 to 1 of 3 of f of x, well, from negative 1 to 1 is 0, and if we got 3 of those, it still would be 0. One more problem, Bo. And then we got the integral from 0 to 1 of 3 times f of x. So we're just looking back. Okay, from 0 to 1 is right here, 5. So we'll do 3 times that, 3 times 5, 15. Okay, so that pretty much ends this week. Properties. We'll continue with properties next week. And so if we look at those ones we'll be looking at graphs and how the integrals affect a graph.
Oh my goodness.
All right, well, have a great one. Enjoy your weekend. See you guys on Tuesday.